Good morning, it is isolation day 11. I was not feeling the best yesterday. I don't know if you could tell in yesterday's vlog or not, especially in like the second half of the day I kind of stopped vlogging, and then yeah, I think it all just kind of, I don't want to say it hit me because obviously I know what's going on and there was no like realization that I hadn't realized before, but I think the feelings hit me more than anything else. I don't know. Anyway, we're not dwelling on that today. I'm not vlogging as such today. I'm not taking you around with me for my day today, but I wanted to sit down with you guys. So I'm gonna put you on my tripod here and talk about something in particular, and that is budgeting slash like tracking what you're spending. I don't know if now is the time to talk about this or not. I was kind of in two minds whether to film this while we're in lockdown. I mean, one way of looking at it, if you have lost your job or you've been like, your pay is being cut back, then now is probably not the time to be talking about what we're doing with our money because you might not have much of an income. But on the other side of it, like if you are still earning money, now might be a really good time to be a bit more conscious of what you're doing with your money. I know for me, I tend to shop a lot, like online, in-store, just things that I don't need. And so I want to show you guys how I keep track of my spending. Hopefully it will be helpful for you guys. I mean, that is kind of the purpose of today's video. If it's not helpful or if it's come at the wrong time, then I'm really sorry, but I'm hoping that it will be helpful for at least some of you. So basically, I've been keeping track of my monthly spending for about 2 years now. So every month I make myself a little spreadsheet, and you guys are gonna laugh because when people say spreadsheets, they mean like on the computer. My spreadsheet is literally on a piece of paper. That is how old school I am. But yes, every month I make myself a paper spreadsheet. So this is my April spreadsheet. As you can see, there's nothing on it because April has only just begun and I'm in lockdown, so I'm not spending any money right now. But I divide my spreadsheet into 6 categories. So you can see right here, the first thing that I put is necessities, and that is for rent and petrol and things that Evie needs. It's exactly what it sounds like, things that have to be paid that we don't have a choice about. Included in rent is power, water, internet. Generally that comes out of my account as a bulk payment because we have a separate rent account. So usually there's just like one fortnightly payment that comes out of my account, which is slightly higher than what we pay in rent, and that then covers everything. In terms of Evie, it covers her food, it covers, I don't know, what else does Evie do? Like flea collars, vet visits, anything like that. It goes into the necessities column. It doesn't cover like treats for Evie because that is not a necessity. That is something that we don't have to give her. Or like if we were gonna buy her a toy or something, that would not go in that column. Moving on to the second column, which is kind of necessary. That's what I've called it. So kind of necessary, and then in brackets I've got top-ups, gifts, etc. Just in case I forget my own definition of kind of necessary. So these are things that really do need to be a part of our life, but like if we seriously had no money, they could get cut out, like phone top-ups. Jonathan and I are both on monthly phone plans, which gives us texts and calls and a bit of data, which is really nice to have. We have internet, which is covered, like I said, in the first column. So if we really weren't able to text or call anybody, we would still be able to message them over the internet, we'd call them over Messenger, so really we could do without our top-ups, which is why I've put it in the kind of necessary column rather than the first necessities column. And then gifts is in there as well because, like, you know, if we're gonna go and see someone on their birthday, we want to take them something, or like Christmas, we want to be able to get certain people gifts. I'm just looking back over like previous months and what I've put in that column as well. Netflix is in that column as well because we pay Netflix monthly. You kind of need Netflix, don't you? But at the same time, you don't actually. I've just found something else actually that goes in the first column, the necessities column, just from looking back at previous months. Insurances go in there as well, so like our car insurance, contents insurance, what other insurance have we got? Life insurance would go in there as well, and also like car things that are necessary, like warrant of fitness. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to the third column, which is food. Yes, I know, food is essential, but I just wanted to make it its own column because, I mean, I don't really know why. I feel like some food that we buy is essential, but some is definitely not, but I wanted it to have its own column separate from essentials. In the food column, I put all of the food, whether it is groceries, takeaways, snack foods, like everything that is food or drink goes in the food column. This is normally my longest column, the one that I add the most separate things to. It's like necessities, when I'm putting in rent and petrol and stuff, there might be like 4 entries over the month, but food, it seems that I buy food like almost every second day. So like if I just quickly read you the food for March, it goes groceries, sandwich, bakery, milk, Chinese takeaways, groceries, cheesecake, bakery, long life food, groceries, drinks, groceries, and groceries. So there's more in there than just groceries. Dinner out, pizza, noodles, groceries, Burger King, burger, movie snacks, burgers, donuts, groceries, Turkish. Whereas in comparison, if I read you the necessities column, it goes cat food, rent, rent. Did I not even get petrol this month? Wow. And now that we can't drive anywhere, I'm not going to need petrol for a while. The next 2 columns in my spreadsheet are probably my least used and possibly the 2 that would change for different people. So after food, I have put a clothing column and a beauty column. And I don't think I've used that beauty column in a little while. So this is where I think if you are going to follow my kind of spreadsheet, then these 2 columns should be tailored to what you normally spend your money on. So if Jonathan were wanting to take my spreadsheet and use it for himself, I would suggest that instead of a clothing column and a beauty column, he might have like a gaming column and a music column, because that is what he spends money on. But I mean, I don't really need to go into them a huge amount, do I? Like, they're very self-explanatory. Clothing column is anything that I wear on my body. Beauty column is generally anything that would go on my face, be makeup, skincare, things like that. What? Have you caught something? What? Evie's meowing at me like she's caught something. Should we go see? What's going on, baby? You got something to show me? Have you? Have you? What is it? Did you eat it already? I don't know. I think she ate it already. Anyway, back to what we were doing. And in the final column, which I do think everybody needs, is the miscellaneous column. So this is for everything that doesn't fit into any of the other columns. It's just those things that are just random, but you need them. So for example, last month I bought dishwash tablets, which weren't food, although they would normally be part of groceries. I don't break my groceries up into the food items and the non-food items. If it's something that I buy during my grocery shop, it all goes in food column. But if I buy something separately that's not during the grocery shop and it's not food, then I won't put it in the food column, like dishwash tablets. The month before, I bought a bunch of stuff for my class, just like random classroom items, so that all went in miscellaneous. I bought a jewelry stand, which was miscellaneous. My fake plants, going to the movies, oh, gym membership, that went in miscellaneous. Haircuts, camera equipment, you know, all these strange things. Well, they're not that strange, but they just don't fit in any of the other columns, but I think that's why we need a miscellaneous column. I'll just hold that there. You can take a screenshot if you want, because I think this would work for most people if you change the clothing and beauty columns to obviously whatever it is that you spend money on. I feel like this is a fairly comprehensive little template. In terms of how I use it, I don't actually write down cent for cent the amount that I spend on things. I round things to the dollar. So if it's up to 50 cents, then I'll round it down, and if it's over 50 cents, then I'll round it up to the next dollar. Simple rounding, you guys get it. But every dollar that I spend is accounted for somewhere on the spreadsheet. And because I don't really use cash anymore, it's really simple to just look through my account statement online. So you can totally do this retrospectively. You don't have to do it a day at a time or a month at a time even. So once I get to the last day of the month, or you know, the first few days of the next month if I've forgotten to do it, I add up the total for each individual column. So for example, like in January, I spent $2,473 on necessities, $37 on kind of necessary, $290 on food, $499 on clothing, nothing on beauty, and $461 in the miscellaneous column. And once you've done this for a few months, you can look back on past months and compare the columns to each other. So you might think, whoa, I spent heaps on clothing this month, but then you look at other months and you go, oh, actually I've spent nothing on clothes for the last 6 months, so it's okay that I had a bit of a splurge. Or, you know, if you were going to compare your miscellaneous spending from month to month, you might think, whoa, why did I spend that much on miscellaneous things that month? But then you look at what you actually spent it on. Like in January, I spent $412 on my gym membership, but that is something that is a year-long membership, and I'm not going to need to pay that for the next year now. So it becomes really useful in terms of tracking where it is that you're spending money and when your spending is valid and when maybe it's a little bit silly. I'll give you an example of when it's a little bit silly. So in February, I spent $561 on food. And then in March, I spent $789 on food. So I spent $200 more than I did the previous month. And that doesn't add up for me. So then I'm looking much more carefully at what types of food I spent money on in March and trying to find why it was so damn expensive. And then I see a $200 grocery shop. Normally our grocery shops are $100. So just looking for those little spending things, I guess being aware of when you're spending more than you need to. Yeah, so once I have my totals for each column for the month and I've kind of like compared it to previous months, I then add the column totals together to get my complete spending for the month. And then obviously I'm able to compare my total spending for the month to other months. Also, once you've been doing this for over a year, you're able to go back and compare it to the same month in previous years. So now that I've been doing this for 2 years, I can compare my spending for March to 2019's March spending and 2018's March spending. Now, I don't keep this particular piece of paper for the rest of my life, but I do want a record of how much I spend so that I can compare it to previous years. So what I do is I keep my monthly spreadsheet for the year that we're in. So right now I have January, February, March and April spreadsheets, but I don't have my spreadsheets from last year anymore because I put them into a different spreadsheet. So I also have a yearly spreadsheet, again a paper one, not a digital one, and this tracks how much I spend each month for the whole year. So rather than having columns with like different types of spending, it just says how much I spent for the month. And it has a small box for why I spent that money. This is this year's one. So down the side I have all the months, and then I have my column with how much I've spent each month. Then I have a column called reason and one called cut back on. Some months you just spend more than other months, and sometimes there's actually a really good reason for it, but sometimes there's also not a good reason for it. So the reason I've got those two columns, the reason and the cut back on, is to either justify why I was spending so much money. For example, gym membership, which I think is a great thing to spend money on, but it would also bump my spending up a little bit higher for the month, or to remind myself that I need to cut back on something. For example, clothing is one that comes up on here quite often, and food is another one. If I look back at last year's spreadsheet, January I spent quite a lot of money, but the reason for that was car and contents insurance. So that is something I had to pay for, and it bumped up my spending for the month, but it was a legitimate reason, a legitimate thing to spend my money on. Life insurance is in here. Passports were expensive, man. They were $500 for each of us, so that was a bit of a bulk payment for us. And then the only things that I said I had to cut back on last year were food. 3 times I wrote food in the cut back on column, and I don't think I've learned that lesson yet, but we're still getting there. And now if I compare this year's little spreadsheet to last year's one and even to the year before, I notice that my spending is going up every single year. But along with this, you really need to keep in mind what is going on in your life as well, because it would be very easy for me to be like, why am I spending $2,000 a month more than I used to 2 years ago? I need to cut back this, I need to cut back that. But 2 years ago, Jonathan and I were living with his family, and we paid rent, but it was like nothing. So a big reason last year that our spending went up, or that my spending went up, because I'm not counting his spending in this, is that we started paying rent. So in terms of rent, I think what I was paying from 2018 to 2019 got well more than doubled anyway. I think it was like 3 times as much. And then from last year to this year, Jonathan is now studying and not earning. So last year we were splitting rent between us, but now I'm paying all of it. So that is another big jump. So if I actually compare March each year, in March 2018, I spent $773. That is less than 1 rent payment. And then in 2019, in March, I spent $2,884, which is, you know, $2,000 more than the year before. And then March this year, I spent, what? That doesn't add up. $2,692. That's amazing. I spent less this year in March than last year. Okay, we need a different example. Oh wow, March was my highest spending month out of the whole year last year. Let's use February as a better example. February last year I spent $1,966, and February this year I spent $3,274. And I can't give you February from 2018 because I started doing this in March 2018. But yeah, you can see there's like a shift of about $1,000 each year in terms of what I'm spending monthly. And you know, obviously if I hadn't had a big jump in my career, then that wouldn't make sense. If we hadn't moved out and started paying a lot more rent, then it wouldn't make sense. But you have to keep in mind like what your life situation is, because there are going to be times where your spending goes up, and obviously when you move out of house your spending goes up a lot. My goal next year, when Jonathan is earning again and contributing to rent, is to bump my spending down to what it was last year, because obviously right now I am paying his part of the rent as well, but then once he's earning and contributing his part again, it would be really easy for me to go, okay, now I have all this extra money, let's go and spend it. So my goal is to not do that, but instead to be like, okay, here's this extra money, let's save it. Because any money that I put into savings does not go on this spreadsheet. Maybe it should. No, because I don't know. Saving isn't spending. Saving is great. Anyway, I feel like this video has been super long and super in-depth. Hopefully it was useful and not too boring. I feel like you either love talking about this stuff or you find it really boring. So I'm sure if you found it boring, you wouldn't have watched. I'm going to end this video here, but do let me know if you decide to use a version of the spreadsheets that I've talked about today. And I will catch you guys again next time.